Hey there, everybody. This is Kristen from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you for this week's 10-minute mindfulness meditation practice. And the new month theme for this month is the idea of getting comfortable with discomfort, which I honestly kind of think is a bit of a superpower because if you can do that, I am of the belief that you can really find that you can navigate through life with less suffering, for lack of a better way of summarizing it. It's definitely a big part of the concept of mindfulness and really all of the philosophies around being present. Because when you think about getting comfortable with discomfort, one of the things that we actually are building our capacity for when we sit is just being deeply present with how things are. And for just also, I would say, just accepting how things are. So when we do a practice and I say things like, if you notice some discomfort or, some sort of sensation, you're not trying to change it or shift it in any way, you're just noticing it. So there's a little bit of a quality of surrender, which is a word that I actually have kind of mixed feelings about. But in the context of how I'm trying to describe it, when I say that you're surrendering to a circumstance, what you're doing is you're choosing to not exert resistance to it. It doesn't mean that you're saying that it's okay or that you like it this way and you're, cool with it all. What you're really just saying is this is how it is, and there's only so much that I have control over, and so I'm going to be with how things are. So that's going to actually be the focus of our practice today. What I'd like to do is just the kind of traditional mindfulness meditation, 3 anchors kind of approach for the first half or so. And then we're going to transition into finishing with this idea of exploring what it might feel like to surrender to, for lack of a better word, and be accepting of some circumstances that may exist that we might not necessarily feel particularly delighted about. So let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to just find your seat. I'll set the timer. Either closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. And as we always do, taking some of those deep, grounding, relaxing breaths. And then allowing your breathing to resume its natural rhythm. Instead of giving you the usual amount of guidance for each of the 3 anchors, instead I'm going to touch on each lightly. So knowing that one anchor option for you is to rest your awareness on your breath, noticing where you feel it, and just resting your attention there. You can also rest your awareness on your body or some sort of other physical sensation. Noticing whatever is noticeable. And then lastly, you can rest your awareness on sounds. The sounds inside the room or outside the room. Some being more constant while others come and go. So let's just play with each of those and then settle on whichever one feels right for you for this practice in this moment. Noticing where the mind is now, and if it's wandered, remembering that's entirely okay, and that you just gently but firmly bring your attention back to one of those anchors. And even though there is some effort involved in holding your attention or bringing it back, also considering that this is an opportunity to rest from that habitual way of just following your thoughts whenever they come up, and exerting a little bit more choice and strengthening your ability to exert that choice every time you do practices like this. Noticing if the mind has wandered, and if so, once again, bringing it back. Resting in the present moment. And when you're ready, I would like for us to transition into this second part of the practice, where we explore and play with this idea of surrendering, or at least allowing ourselves to be deeply present to and not actively resisting a circumstance. So I'd like you to bring to mind a circumstance that may be troubling you in some way right now. But I want to emphasize that you want to choose something that isn't too big or too deep. For this initial exercise, pick up the 2-pound weight, not the 50-pound weight. So it just could be the choices someone is making that you don't agree with, a circumstance or development in your work life or personal life. And don't get caught up in picking what you think is the best one. Just, as I said, don't choose one that's too heavy. And I want you to just think about whatever the circumstance is, bringing it to mind and allowing it to be here. To be here in your awareness and your consciousness. Noticing if there's any change physically as you think on this situation. Do you notice your body changing in any way, a tightening? What are the emotions associated with this circumstance? See if you can feel those emotions in your body as well. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. And now what I'd like for you to do is, once again, take a few deep breaths. And I want you to notice that quality of resistance, that quality of wishing it were different. And I want you to just, as best you can, loosen that. I don't expect you to let it go in such a short amount of time, but just gently loosening it if you can. And allowing yourself to turn toward all the feelings and emotions associated with this circumstance. letting them be here. You don't have to like the feelings or like the circumstance, but you're allowing it. You're not pushing it away. You could even metaphorically visualize yourself sitting on a bench and letting it sit next to you. This circumstance, this action, whatever it may be. Always paying attention to how you're feeling in your body. And if it's helpful, you can also try to actively bring up a quality of acceptance. Not that you're saying it's okay, but accepting the fact that this is how it is, and there's nothing you can do to change it. In a sense, accepting the fact that you cannot change it. Choosing to channel that energy that you otherwise would channel in resisting. Instead, just using that energy to be fully present with how things are. There are many things in our lives that we cannot change. And we're playing with this idea of accepting the fact that we can't. So holding this attempt at acceptance and surrendering and letting it be here. Continuing to breathe. And doing the best we can to continue to hold that level of acceptance for the last few moments until the final bell. And that is 10 minutes. So you may have found that idea of trying to allow something to be, particularly something that we can't actually change or, affect in any way. It's kind of similar to the same idea of when thoughts arise, that we're not actually pushing thoughts away, which sometimes it might feel like we are. If anything, you're just noticing the thought, seeing it for what it is, and really being truly present to it before you then just shift your attention back. So this allowing of the thought and giving it your full presence is kind of similar, I think, to the idea of whatever this situation is. Instead of just kind of like, not wanting it, allowing it and allowing it to be here. Again, like I said multiple times, not that you're saying it's okay, but that you're almost making some peace with it, perhaps is the better way to describe it. So I hope that you found that this was helpful. And we're going to continue with this theme for the next several practices this month, but we're going to go in a few different directions. So hopefully you're kind of digging this. And of course, at any time, if you're ever playing any of these videos and you're kind of like not feeling what we're doing, you can always just sit and do your own thing for those 10 minutes. And I think you guys know that, but in case you need to be reminded, know that you can. So thank you so much for being here and taking the time to practice. Thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye.